Hi, my name is Alex Bovee. I'm the CEO and co-founder of C1.ai, and it's a pleasure to be a part of TechNative's Human and Cyber Interviews. So there's a few conflicts that we consistently see with access decisions. So one is that the approver and sometimes even the requester doesn't actually have context in what it is that they need to accomplish the job or what's at hand and they're trying to get done. So if they're requesting, permission and infrastructure in AWS, they may not actually understand what it is that they actually need to do. And then the second challenge and conflict that we see is, generally speaking, humans want to help other humans out. And so there's also always a lot of pressure to over approve or grant too much access for the wrong thing, really to give someone the help that they need to accomplish that job. But sometimes access might be very inappropriate, and we don't have good ways to manage that at scale. So AI agents just move at the speed of GPUs, unlike humans. And so a lot of times with AI agents, what you need is declarative policy that governs what's appropriate and inappropriate for the agent in terms of the permissions and the access that they need. You want to be able to mission scope an agent. So be able to define this is what this agent should be doing and grant those permissions in a standing way or give the agent the ability to escalate that. And so that's just a very different path than humans, because humans are sort of intrinsically non-deterministic and wandering in what they want to do. In other words, they might have different jobs, roles, different projects. And so you need to be able to govern that in a much different way. So one of the hardest parts, particularly as you scale a company, is understanding the permissions, access, and identities that are in your environment. And that happens for a few reasons. One is it happens because of the sheer application sprawl within a company's environment. So, at scale, large businesses, enterprise businesses, they'll have 3,000 plus applications. And that's not always SaaS applications. It's a lot of on-prem systems, a lot of infrastructure. And so you've got a lot of identities, a lot of service accounts, a lot of users, now a lot of agents across thousands of applications, and understanding and getting visibility across the permissions and access that those have in a centralized location is really hard. Because a lot of times those systems might be disconnected applications. They're not connected to your IDP, for example. And so you have to go to the application owner and ask them for a pull of the data that's in the system, and you're trying to aggregate that. And it's a really messy problem. It's a scaled out data problem, and it's an integration problem. One of the core beliefs of C1 is that to be able to manage and govern access at scale in a streamlined way, it has to be as automated and policy driven as possible. And I think that with AI agents coming to the enterprise, it's going to 10, 50, 100x the number of identities that companies have. And you simply cannot have manual processes to govern that access control. It has to be automated, it has to be policy driven. Your agents are not going to log into your ITSM system and create service desk tickets. If they are, they're not going to be able to move with the speed and efficiency that you need them to be able to do. They're not going to be able to operate at the speed of GPUs. And so I think that in the future, and a lot of companies are already moving to this, everything has to be moved to real time. You need real time governance, you need runtime authorization, and you need radical automation across your infrastructure and applications. So I think the most interesting change for me in the identity stack is that traditionally we've had different best of breed systems for different problem statements in the identity stack. You had an IAM product that would maybe do directory plus SSO. Sometimes you would have a standalone directory system. You would have a system for privileged access management and vaulting. You'd have a different system for identity governance. And what's changing in the industry right now is that it's very hard to drive automation and real-time runtime governance across your identities, particularly your AI agents, when each of these different capabilities lives in different siloed systems that don't talk well to each other and don't integrate well together. And so agents are just really changing, non-human identity and agents are just really changing the landscape, where we have to have horizontal platforms that are going to govern those experiences end to end, so that when a user wants to create an agent, they can do it in a self-service way that can be approved with the correct policy. It can be governed in real time from an authorization perspective. They can be granted additional permissions. They can be offboarded correctly. And you just can't do that across 6 different systems that don't talk well and tie in well together. So the biggest difference between non-human identity and human identity is just the sheer scale of them, and the fact that you don't really have good visibility into them. So on the scale side, if you just looked at access tokens and service accounts, it's probably a 20 to 30 to 1 non-human to human ratio today. With AI agents, it could easily be 100 to 1. And that just fundamentally changes the way that you need to govern and manage them, because you need visibility across all these different platforms and technology you use to understand what are the different, again, tokens, service accounts, AI agents, what agents live in infrastructure that you're running in the cloud, what are the local agents that people are running. And you have to be able to manage and govern that in real time, and you have to be able to automate the life cycle around it as well. Or otherwise the sprawl gets out of control. You've got tokens and keys everywhere. You've got orphaned accounts and orphaned identities that have access to things, and that really will create a security nightmare. Yeah, I think one of the most important things for security and IT and CIO leaders to think about today is really about not resisting technical change. And I think right now the AI wave is a massive shift in the enterprise today that's changing not only the technology platform, but also the process and the way people operate within the business. And I think the most important thing to think about when you have those technological shifts is not how do I resist this and just focus on visibility, but really how do you give your employees a governed path to use that technology securely and safely? Because I think the enablement opportunity is such a bigger business driver and outcome driver for companies, that it's a massive competitive advantage. And if you can find a way, let's take AI for example, to give your employees access to AI tools, give them governed access to MCPs and data, and do that in a secure way, you're not gonna end up with a security nightmare, because people aren't going to go off the paved roads and do crazy things. They're going to use the technology you give them, and it's going to be secure and safe by default.